The Rangers went into Houston with some massive questions about their team, but they leave Houston with some legitimate hope for a second half turnaround and an actual playoff push.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into some massive wins for the Rangers this weekend, Josh Smith putting on the game of his life and an absolutely sensational weekend by the bullpen. This episode of Locked On Rangers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com today for your stay. Now, the Rangers took 2 out of 3 after dropping the first game in Houston in brutal fashion. Not that there's really any good way to lose to the team that you hate the most, but after that loss on Friday, I was definitely in my feels, definitely angry, definitely frustrated with this team that had been playing so well as of late, that had put themselves in this very, very steep, deep hole, and said, you know what, this team doesn't win the next 2 games, before the All-Star break. If you don't win out 2 out of 3 in Houston, you're probably going to be sellers at the deadline. And I know that's a dramatic thing to say about any regular season series, but it's not just a one-off thing. It's not some series in April. It's not some series in May. This is heading up to the All-Star break. You got about 2 weeks left before you decide for sure if your team is buyers or sellers, and they need every single win they can get. Would have liked to have all 3 of these wins in Houston. Would have liked to have entered the All-Star break on a 9-game winning streak and not dropped that annoying series finale in Anaheim. But that's where this team was. That was what this team was dealing with. They had no choice but to win and to keep winning. And to do it the way they did the last couple of games, in one a little bit more frustrating fashion than the other. Sunday's one definitely, I think, more fun to watch, a better performance overall for the team, because Saturday, the Rangers were just in a rough way. But then again, so were the Astros. I mean, just an absolute bonanza of offensive inefficiency in that game on Saturday. After a first pitch homer from Marcus Semien, the Rangers didn't score again till the top of the 10th inning. But I gotta talk about Josh freaking Smith. The game of his life, the pre-All-Star break of his life. I mean, this man is just unbelievable. Unbelievable what this man has done in the first half. This has been sensational by Joshua H. Pookie All-Star Smith. Actually, I think Josh is just Josh on his baseball reference page. It doesn't say Joshua. The H stands for Harris, but more importantly, it stands for hits the holy crap out of some baseballs. Josh hits the holy crap out of some baseballs. All-Star Pookie Smith. It's his full government name at this point. 2 massive home runs, one on a 3-0 pitch, getting the green light to go yard off of Ronel Blanco, giving the Rangers a 2-0 lead, a lead they would never surrender because he would add on more later on against former Ranger great Rafael Montero right after Corey Seager worked a walk. He hits the absolute crap out of a baseball yet again for a second home run of the game. The guy has just been, he's been the Rangers' best player in the first half. There's no caveats. There's no, in this situation, because of this. No, he has been the Rangers' best player on a team that employs 2 guys that finished 2nd and 3rd in MVP voting last year, and a team that had a guy who won the ALCS MVP last year, and a team that had a guy who has won a Silver Slugger and a Gold Glove and another guy who was an all-star last year, and another guy who was also an all-star last year, and another guy in Wyatt Langford who might be the best hitting prospect the Rangers have had in forever. Josh Smith has been the best player in the first half. Full stop. He has hit consistently. He has gotten on base consistently. He has been a massive bat in the middle of this Rangers order, providing some cleanup, some protection for Corey Seager, providing defense at shortstop, at third base, even occasionally at second base. He has been there. He has done that. He has been an absolutely driving force of this team. The reason they are not even further in a hole that they absolutely couldn't dig themselves out of. They're in a hole they can dig themselves out of right now. At this point, they will be either 5 or 6 games behind the Seattle Mariners come this time tomorrow. Right now, as I'm recording, it's the bottom of the 6th inning. The Mariners are leading 1-0 against the Angels. They are about 7 games back in the wild card chase. They still have a few teams in between them and the Boston Red Sox, 7.5 games to be specific. They've got the Royals, Astros, Rays, and Tigers in between them. Soon they're going to pass the Rays and the Tigers. That's probably not going to happen until next week because games aren't happening right now. But this team is feeling it. They are feeling themselves. They are hitting better. They are performing together as a team. And Josh Smith, all-star snubbery or not, he is all-star caliber. And in my mind, he is an all-star. He should be. He is one of the 10 best position players, maybe 15 best position players in the American League right now. And he should be there. But he's not going to be. And you know what? That's fine. That's fine. It's fine for him. He's over it. He gets to go and hang out with his wife on a beach. And I'm sure that's a much more enjoyable way. As cool as it would be to be an all-star and to be around all those festivities, he's played a lot of baseball, and I'm sure he would like to just go chill on a beach for a couple of days with his wife. That would be a lot of fun. But he is absolutely deserving of that honor. He drives in all 4 runs for the Rangers in this game, keeps them with a winning record in Houston, or winning this series in Houston, I should say. I think they're at 500 on the year against the Houston Astros. This is a team that just needs every single win, every single moment. They are in do or die time right now, and it's because of what they did in the first half. It's not because everyone else has been so amazing. The Mariners have been fine. Not amazing, but fine. The Astros were terrible for the first month and a half, but really since the middle of June, they've been one of the best teams in baseball. And not only that, but as of late, heading into this series, they were undefeated at home in the last 9 games. They had a 9-game winning streak at home, something they really didn't do last year. And they didn't do in the playoffs, losing all 4 home games to the Rangers in the playoffs in the ALCS. That was a fun little fact that I will always treasure. But after that win on Friday night, they had won 10 straight games at home. This is a team that is clicking on all cylinders. They have a lot of injuries to their pitchers. They had one of their best hitters has been out for a while, didn't play in this series, in Kyle Tucker. But they still have a very, very good team. As much as I like to clown on them and not give them credit, this is a darn good team. This is your biggest rival. This has been the measuring stick for the last several years in the American League. And this is a team that you needed to be. It doesn't matter who's in front of you. You need every single win you can get and every single way you can get them. It doesn't matter if you win by 100 runs, you win by 1. All the wins count the same. Expected wins-loss record is just an indicator of how good your natural talent is. But at the end of the season, that's not a measuring stick. That's not a barometer or a reason to get you into the playoffs. It just comes down to the wins and losses. It's that simple. So taking 2 out of 3 in this series, absolutely massive. Doing it in the way that they did, hanging on for dear life and scratching across 1 run on Saturday in the 10th inning after that first pitch homer from Marcus Semien. Those wins count the same as the blowouts. And right now, every single one of them is monumentous, and every single swing by Josh Smith is monumentous. And everybody in this bullpen for the last couple of days has been absolutely fantastic. We're going to get into an absolutely heroic performance from Josh Sborz and a great, great start from Max Scherzer. Right after this word from sponsors. This episode of Locked On Rangers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're even talking about your rival cities. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. Now, the Rangers aren't playing any more games in Houston and this season, maybe until the postseason. If we have another ALCS Silver Boot Series, you can see all kinds of different places to stay in Houston. The baseball team, you may not like them, but the city's got some great eats. If you want to go to Seattle, see some of those games towards the end of the year, that'd be a great place to go. Or you want to check out Oakland later on in the year. Booking.com is the perfect place to find all of your booking needs. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or on the Booking.com app. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Now, Max Scherzer started in this game, and even though he was only able to go 4 innings, this was still a really good start from Scherzer. Only 1 run came on the solo home run, which of course would have only been a home run in 4 ballparks in Major League Baseball. Classic Mickey Mouse Stadium behavior. But he comes out there, strikes out 6, got himself into a jam in the 5th inning that I think maybe he could have gotten himself out of, but because the Rangers were trying to limit his pitch count, he was pitching on what was normal rest, but they were targeting around 70 to 75 pitches. Last time out, he threw around past 95 pitches for the first time this year. So getting him to go back out there on normal rest, still testing him just a little bit, mainly because they had so many guys in the back end of the pen that were ready to step in and step up even for multiple innings. Guys like Josh Sborz, Jose Leclerc were both ready to go multiple innings. They also had John Gray back there if Scherzer struggled a little bit early on and could only get through 2 to 3 innings. They had John Gray out there. I kind of wish we would have seen John Gray, but obviously the bullpen management from, of course, Bruce Bochy was beautiful. Why would it not be? Why am I doubting this man? This genius bullpen whisperer, a guy who is just knows exactly what to do, exactly who to call on in what situation, and calling on Josh Sborz to come in with a bases loaded, no outs situation, an incredibly frustrating bases loaded, no outs situation with a 1-run lead that they got into. After a leadoff single, getting a bunt single, and then a walk for a guy trying to bunt with runners on first and second, that was a frustrating way to end your game if you're Max Scherzer. Just incredibly frustrating. Loperfido is a fine batter, and I don't know why the Astros were having him bunt there to get ahead of Mauricio Dubon, who's their number 9 hitter, who's not hitting well at all this year. Loperfido has a 273 batting average, a 750 OPS, nearly 60 points higher, more than 60 points higher than Dubon. But okay, sure, fine. That's the way you want to go. That's the way he went. But walking that guy and bringing in Josh Sborz in such a critical situation, a situation he hasn't really pitched in since he's come off the IL. He has not been the highest high leverage guy, even in 6th, 7th innings. It's more been lower leverage kind of situations for Sborz. And what does he do? But he strikes out the first guy he faces. He gets Jose Altuve to pop out, and then he gets Alex Bregman to ground out to get out of the inning without allowing a single run. without allowing a single run, leaving that lead intact. It felt tenuous at the time. It felt like, okay, the Rangers need a little bit more insurance here. Maybe they can go the whole rest of the way, but without David Robertson there, the question about what was going to happen in the 7th inning. Were they going to use Leclerc? Were they going to use Latz? They still had 2 more innings to go after Spores came back out there and got another inning of scoreless work. Absolutely fantastic performance from Josh Spores, and if this is going to be the Spores that we see moving forward, this is the kind of Josh Spores that we saw in the postseason last year. One of the most dominant relievers in baseball in the postseason. He was absolutely unhittable, and that's what he looked like in this one. And then they got Jose Leclerc, who looked like Jose Leclerc. Ran into a little bit of trouble, a decent base knock, and then an error by Josh Smith, a rare error by Josh Smith, got himself into a jam. And up comes Yordan Alvarez as the tying run. And I thought, oh no, is this where Bruce Bochy goes to Jacob Latz? Is this the situation that happens for Jacob Latz, who Latz has been much better than I expected him to be this year. I did not expect him to make the team out of camp, but he started out great. As of late, there have been a rough couple of outings for him. It had been a little bit of a struggle there in June, giving up those runs in Milwaukee twice. Just a really, really tough couple of games for him. It had just been mainly those 2 performances, and then he had a rough outing against Tampa Bay as well. But give Bruce Bochy credit. He knew what he was doing. He absolutely knew what he was doing. And the pitches that Jacob Latz made to Yordan Alvarez, one of the most dangerous hitters in all of Major League Baseball, I mean, that was masterful. Absolutely masterful 3-pitch strikeout to one of the most dangerous hitters in all of Major League Baseball. First pitch, 97, in, on the hands, strike, called. Then goes away with a 4-seam fastball, 3 4-seam fastballs, and he gets 2 swings and 2 called strikes, 1 swing and miss. The second pitch, absolutely dotted, low and away corner of the zone. You could not possibly place it more perfectly if you tried. Then on 0-2, gets him to chase out of the zone, then gets a ground out to get out of the inning, and just absolutely masterful of Bruce Bochy saying, I know exactly what I'm doing. I've got a plan. I've got a feel. I know when to take guys out and who to call guys in what situation, and they're going to come through for me because I know my guys and I know how to be a manager. I know how to work whatever bullpen I'm given to perfection. And that's what he has done for the most part this year, is calling in guys in the exact right spots. I think he struggled with that a little bit last year. I think just learning the personalities, the situations that these guys thrived in, and also just, reacclimating to being a manager last year with the new 3-batter minimum rule. I think that was honestly a big wrinkle for Bochy. It was something that, he didn't have to deal with the last time that he was a manager back in 2019. And I think one of the reasons why he was so great as a bullpen manager, as a guy who was calling the strings at the exact right time, is because you could have those loogies, those lefty relievers that come in and face one lefty and then they're done, or righty only guys. You call them in, they only face one guy, and then you're done. He knew how to play those matchups to perfection for whatever reliever he had, and you can't really do that anymore as much. You can a little bit, but not quite as much. And so learning that and learning this pen and the situations that these guys thrive in, I think that has made him an even better manager this year, which he was already a Hall of Famer and fantastic, but it's made him better in this specific situation. And it has been just beautiful to watch this pen all year long, not just in this game. Yates coming in there and getting his 16th save of the season, an ERA back over 1 because of the 1 earned run that he allowed. But having the absolutely dominant bullpen the Rangers do, coming in those 3 innings in Saturday night's game, after Eovaldi just chucked an absolute masterclass, 7 innings of 1-run ball with 7 strikeouts. I don't want to gloss over that because Nathan Eovaldi was absolutely phenomenal in that game on Saturday, as was David Robertson, coming in there, allowing just the 1 hit in 2 innings and 3 strikeouts. Absolutely masterful stuff there. Kirby Yates coming in and working what would have been a perfect inning if not for an intentional walk to Yordan Alvarez with that 1-run lead after Nathaniel Lowe came through in such a big way. That at-bat was masterful from Nathaniel Lowe, getting that opposite field bloop single to drive in the run after the Rangers had been 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position to that point, including a lot of bases loaded jams the Rangers got themselves got absolutely nothing out of, which has unfortunately been a theme this year. But having those guys in the back end of the pen, having what feels like 4 to 5 legitimately trustworthy back end relief options right now. I mean, it feels like night and day from last year. You have Kirby Yates, who is just about as automatic as possible out there in the bullpen. You have David Robertson as a phenomenal 8th inning guy. If he needs to get you a 7th and an 8th inning, he can. Or an 8th and a 9th if you're going into extra innings, he can. And then you have Josh Sborz, who we see what he looks like when he's at his best. You have Jose Leclerc, who was absolutely dominant through your first championship run ever. And after a rough first month and a half of the season, he has been mostly nails. And then you've also got Jacob Latz in there. And, your other guys that are just around, Jose Urena and Jonathan Hernandez, they've been fine to good at times this year. That's your entire bullpen. All guys who you feel pretty good about for the most part. I mean, the staunch difference in trustworthiness of a lead late in the game for this Ranger squad versus last year. Oh my gosh, it feels like night and day. I mean, late leads, late games that are close are always stressful, but with this bullpen and with Bochy managing it, it feels almost like a breeze. Obviously, it's not going to be breezy all the time, and eventually guys are going to have rough games and cough things up. Even Kirby Yates might not be perfect in save opportunities for the rest of this year. He's been 16 for 16 so far, only has 1 loss on the season, but eventually guys aren't always perfect. But this pen has been played almost perfectly. The roles are defined. The guys are trustworthy. The stuff is good. The Rangers have the second best strikeouts per 9 of among AL bullpens. They have been striking guys out like crazy. This bullpen went from can't get anybody out, can't strike anybody out, can't stop walking guys, can't stop giving up late leads last year, to mostly phenomenal this year. I know their overall bullpen ERA isn't great, but I think that's more because of a couple of really, really bad outings from guys who aren't even on the roster anymore. And this pen is just incredibly trustworthy. And it leaves this team in a pretty darn good position at the All-Star break. And I think they might just be on track with what their initial goals were for the season. I'm talking about that and more right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best way to get tickets for all kinds of different events. We're looking at sports, you're looking at comedy, you're looking at music, theater, all kinds of different events. Game Time has got the best deals. It is the best way and easiest way to get tickets for every kind of thing that you're looking for. You can get a panoramic view from your seat from any app before you buy, and they've also got the lowest price guarantee, where Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. You've also got last minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They've also got zone deals where you can choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, I want to get back to Max Scherzer to start really quickly, because there's one point I meant to make, and surprise, my ADHD brain forgot to make it before the break. But the thing about Max Scherzer that was not the same last year, the reason why a lot of people were saying he was washed, is because the pitch that has been his best pitch for the vast majority of his career has been his slider. And last year in the first half with the Mets, he just did not have the same bite on his slider, didn't have the same movement. It wasn't the same. It wasn't nearly as effective, and as a result, it was getting hit hard, and he was getting hit hard, and he was not nearly as effective as he was later on with the Rangers, where he seemed to figure a few things out about his slider. But during the offseason, he's worked a little bit more on that slider, made that his main focus to kind of, that was his bread and butter. That was his best pitch, and he needed to get it to be better. And in this game, it looked so much better. The first 8 swings that the Astros hitters took, they swung and missed 6 times. They fouled 1 pitch off and they put 1 in play. But he just looked like his old self with that slider. The fastball velocity was fine. It's not coming back. It's not going to be 95, 96 anymore. But that was never what he needed. It was the pitchability. It was the ability to have a slider that was such a great swing and miss pitch. It's got a little bit less break on it overall, but a little bit later break they were talking about on the broadcast, which has made it just as effective. The curveball is still a darn good pitch. The changeup cutter, fine. Four-seamer, fine. But it is a lot about that slider, and that slider was looking absolutely nasty in this one. He is now just 4 strikeouts away from tying Justin Verlander, his former teammate, for the 10th most strikeouts in Major League history. So literally every time out with Scherzer, it is a possibility of him making milestones. He's been in the league for so freaking long. He is such a big part of this team, and he has been so darn good up to this point. He has been a factor. He has been important for this Rangers squad. 5 starts, over 5 innings per start, a 2.96 ERA heading into the break. He has been important for this Rangers team. He will stay in the rotation as long as he is healthy, and he has been such an important part of this team that I think a lot of people wrote off because, oh, he's turning 40 in July, so therefore he's washed. Therefore, we've never seen anyone ever be any good after 39 or whatever. Or, oh, he had half a bad season with the Mets, and therefore he must totally be washed. Now, I get it. There's legitimate reasons for concern. When you do get older, there is much less margin for error. But this guy is one of the best pitchers of his era, and one of the best pitchers we've ever seen. Ever. In the history of the sport. He's doing things that nobody, not many people, have done. And I think that people slept on him a little bit too much. And after the starts that he has pulled, in his first 5 starts of the year, I think people are realizing, oh, this is Max freaking Scherzer. Of course he's got more in the tank. Of course he's going to be an important part of this Rangers squad. That they will need every single ounce of Max Scherzerness that he's got left heading down the stretch to keep themselves in this run. There have been some injuries that the Rangers have weathered. And it seems like, hopefully, Josh Young is going to be back sometime in the near future. He took 15 swings off of a tee with his own bat on Friday. He is going to rehab through the All-Star break. I'm assuming that a rehab assignment is not far away. He has not faced live pitching yet, but he is ready and rearing to go. He wants so badly to be back on this team, to be back in this lineup, helping this team hit, helping this team do whatever he can do to help them win and go on a prolonged winning streak, which they will very much need. They pretty much need to win 2/3 of their games from now until the end of the season. It's a tough ask, but it's something I think the Rangers can definitely do, especially if they've got Josh Young back. We'll see exactly when he comes back, but he is an important part of this lineup. But it's not just the game that Josh Smith had on Sunday that's going to keep him as an everyday player. It is what he has done all year. The Rangers will have to make some tougher decisions whenever Evan Carter is back, whenever that is. Still don't have a solid timeline for when that's going to happen. Maybe Josh Smith is just going to play the 2011 Michael Young role of super utility /DH. And I think if that's the case, he'd be more than up for it, and maybe even better at it than Michael Young was at the time. Maybe. Who knows? But this team has got so much left in the tank. They've got a lot to look forward to after the break. I mean, they've got some winnable games for sure. Once they get out of this All-Star break, they've got 3 games against the Orioles, who are coming off of a walk-off win against the Yankees in a kind of weird rock fight of 2 teams that are not doing very well. If you want to go look at a funny walk-off, go watch that walk-off from Sunday against the Yankees and see a left fielder make a terrible read on a ball, end up on his face as the ball drops, and the Yankees get walked off in a loss. But the Orioles are not playing well as of right now. Hopefully, they keep not playing well for the first 3 games after the break. They've got quite a few All-Stars that are going to be there. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westberg are all going to be there. I think there might be one more. I think Corbin Burns is also pitching. Yeah, he is pitching. Or at least he has been selected to the game. Who knows if he'll actually be pitching in that game. But the Rangers have 3 there. And they have 4 games against the White Sox at home, who have been absolutely horrendous this year. Then 3 games in Canada against the Blue Jays, and 3 games against the Cardinals in St. Louis. That's all the games this team has between now and the trade deadline. That's it. That's all you've got to make sure that you let your front office and your ownership know this year is not a year we're punting on it just yet. This is a team that can go on a kind of a run and get themselves back into it, and you're at about the baseline for what you were hoping for at the trade deadline. I mean, the thought was heading into this year, you just got to hang on for dear life and wait for those injured starters to come back and hope that the rotation that you've got isn't too injured or too bad to not be carried by the bats as you head to the All-Star break and eventually get Max Scherzer and Tyler Mahle and hopefully eventually Jacob deGrom back. And that just hasn't been the case this year. It's been, this patchwork rotation is so much better than anyone expected. This offense is so much worse across the board than anybody expected. But there's been some signs of life from guys like Nathaniel Lowe, from guys like Jonah Heim, even a little bit from Adolis Garcia, although maybe that one go-ahead homer was just that one go-ahead homer. I was hoping that maybe playing in Houston might spark something in Adolis Garcia. It really didn't this weekend. Not a great weekend for Adolis Garcia. Even after getting hit by a pitch, I thought that might fire him up to go yard a couple of times to remind Houston that he is still their father. But that wasn't the case. This team needs every single hitter, especially Adolis Garcia, to start heating up. They need Nathaniel Lowe to keep looking like the Nathaniel Lowe he's looked like for the last 3 weeks. A guy who is hitting for power, a guy who is getting on base, a guy who is putting together quality at-bats in clutch situations. That's the guy Nathaniel Lowe can be. They need Jonah Heim's offense. It can't afford to just be a cherry on top anymore. They need Leody Taveras to be the hot, streaky, good Leody Taveras as opposed to the cold, streaky, bad Leody Taveras. They need Marcus Semien to keep hitting up. He has got a 25-game hitting streak in Houston. I think that was the best time for the Rangers to go to Houston. He extended it to 25 games, the second longest among any Rangers hitters in a road ballpark. Actually, I think one of the longest in the last 15 years of anybody in any road ballpark. The only one longer was Elvis Andrus' 27 or 37 games in Cleveland, because he just always hit really, really well in Cleveland. But if you're going to hit well in one opposing ballpark and you're a Texas Rangers player, Houston's a pretty darn good place for you to do that. I mean, he had a 3-hit game on Friday. He had that leadoff homer on Saturday, and he had a leadoff single on Sunday. So he has been getting going as of late. The Rangers definitely need his bat to be hot. They need Corey Seager to be hot. They need Josh Smith. They need Josh Young back. They need Adolis Garcia. They need Wyatt Langford. They need every single bit of this team to kick into gear. It's do or die time. And thankfully this weekend, the Rangers did. So we can hold off worries about them dying for at least another week. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.